Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Oh, now, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome in on this Tuesday. It is still frigid out there, and it's not exactly going to jump up into extra climate temperatures anytime soon. Although at the end of the week, I think it's going to get back up to the 50s, I thought I saw. So looking forward to that. Yeah, not even that long away. Wednesday, going to be up in the 50s with some rain. So getting rid of the snow. So there you go. Got that going for us. So in the 50s, now what's with this? So it's going to be 55 on Thursday, 50 on Saturday. But in between, on Friday, it's going to be 27. What in the wide world of sports is going on here, peeps? Hey, it's Tuesday. Got a lot of week to go. Appreciate you being with us in that in-between time. Bowl games coming up. Bowls they've kind of started already. There was one bowl game, I think, actually a Big Ten played in it. I forget which bowl that was. But more importantly, Indiana 2026 signees reacting to Fernando's Heisman win. It's going to sell a lot. And then also yesterday I saw a report, and we'll talk about this, because I mentioned this at the very first. Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt is one of the more experienced quarterbacks out there. And he's going to be someone that would be attractive to come into Indiana. And a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute, what about Alberto? Hey, man, I'm not saying Alberto's not going to be a great quarterback for Indiana. I think he will be. I don't know that it's just yet. He'll have 3 years remaining. That's up to Sig and the guys and the coaches. Hey, they know. I'm just saying what I think will be the case. With him having 3 years left, I think Sig will opt for an experienced guy, if at all possible. Not that Alberto doesn't have experience with his offense. He does. But I'm talking game experience. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that they bring a guy in, a fifth-year guy, someone like Levitt, although Levitt is going to try to leverage his position. And I think that Cignetti will say, we'll pass. If the price is too high, they'll pass. He doesn't need to buy anything. They know how to develop. And I think that's part of the sell. Without question. And that's what this does. It does that for you. You just sold. That is your sales pitch right there. You just stand in front of the Heisman Trophy. Would you like one of these? Yeah, you come to Indiana. You get a lot better shot at it. And there's truth to that now with the stats. Saw Sorsby in the portal yesterday, but so is Taven Jackson. What are you going to bring him in as backups? No, you're not bringing in backups. And not that anyone was suggesting that they be brought in. But appreciate everybody being with us. Levitt or Mutchmaker. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think that, and everybody's talking about, well, you can't, how are you going to recruit if you keep bringing guys in? Well, actually, they're off a recruiting cycle only because Tyler Cherry got hurt. Not sure where he's going to be in his recovery. So that has kind of thrown Indiana's recruiting cycle off a tick, because I think that Alberto would not be expected to start just yet anyway. But again, we'll see. I'm not the coach. Obviously, I don't pretend to be. I don't. It's just what I think is going to happen. It's not what I think should happen. It's not that I think is required to happen. It's just what I think will happen because of the situation. It's just that simple. Could that not be the case? Absolutely. Could Alberto be the guy? Sure. I mean, again, no one knows more than the guys who see them every day and see them practice every day. It just falls on, I think, of game experience. Now, then the question becomes, well, why will he all of a sudden be ready a year later with still not much game experience? And that's a great question. Although you still get a year, you're a year older, you're a year more mature. And then I think that's when you feel like it's that time. But again, it could be sooner rather than later. Who knows? We will sure find out. Because we know what Cignetti's offense offers. And that's the opportunity for everybody to get involved. Everybody. Mike DeCourcy will join us today. JD Campbell. See if JD's got anybody special to bring along with him. He was going to try to bring somebody a little extra. We'll see if that happened or not. Hope your day is going well. And like I said, a lot of the recruits for Indiana, they like what they see. It was amazing to see Fernando get the recognition he deserved last night in New York. 4-star signee Henry Olinger told to Hoosier.com. But most importantly, it was awesome to see the support from his teammates. And it really goes to show how close that group of guys are, and it makes me more excited to get there in January. Maryland wide receiver LeVar Keys, who was with us on the show, said, Mendoza's win came as no surprise. I knew Fernando was going to win it. He just so gifted and talented and loved to win, he said. He earned every bit of it. It wasn't given, just seeing how hard he worked and how he always gave himself up on the field for his brothers every game in practice. It just showed early that the Heisman was his. And I'm truly not surprised, just happy for him and his family. That's coming from IU recruits. That's pretty good. That's pretty good support. But it's also important that what they're seeing is the support, is the brotherhood, is the team, not the me. That's huge. I mean, you can preach that all you want, but there's nothing better than it selling itself. And pretty apparent that in this situation, it's selling itself. Indiana is selling itself. Curt Cignetti is starting to sell himself. And I'll tell you something. I was watching Curt Cignetti last night on a speech to the I think it was the College Football Coaches Association, or maybe it was the American Football Coaches Association, AFCA. And this might have been a speech a year ago. I thought it was not, but then the way it sounded, it might have been. But anyway, just listening to him talk, a lot of people have made the comparison to Bob Knight, the coach Bob Knight, the good side of Bob Knight. And then I'll tell you who else he reminds me of is Nick Saban. And yes, I know he coached under Nick Saban, but it's how he approaches it all. It's how he addresses it, how he attacks every single situation of what he's talking about. And that's a hell of a combination. And so it got me to thinking, can Curt Cignetti be the next Nick Saban? I mean, not that there has to be a Nick Saban, but you know what I'm saying. Why not? Alabama, yeah, they had been great in football a long time ago before they got great again under Nick Saban. Not as great as he got them, and he undoubtedly a tremendous coach. Just how he approaches everything. And again, you look at someone like Cignetti, and that's part of where he got how he approaches how to run a program. But I was just so impressed with, because this was a long talk when he was talking. It was 40 minutes. So it was the longest time of me ever getting of hearing Cignetti speak for that length of time. And I watched it, the whole thing, because you pick up a little bits of things. This family went through a tornado when they were at Alabama. Just little bitty things. I could not believe the pay drop he took to go from Alabama to Indiana University of Pennsylvania. That was mind-boggling, and still, hey, it worked out in the end, but up until then, you're like, woo, man. But what a different route he took. Different cat. He left a high-paying assistant's job at Alabama to take one that paid a third to be a head coach at a Division II level. Crazy. Hey, we got plenty coming up. Mike DeCourcy's going to join us. JD will join us. You're joined us. And that's what matters most of all. Appreciate you being with us. We've got plenty to get to. Games coming up. Basketball, that is. You've got, and, I talked a minute ago when I was talking about Indiana bringing in a potential fifth-year guy. I mentioned right off the bat early in this process a few weeks ago, Sam Leavitt was going to be probably the most popular portal quarterback out there because he's very experienced and he's been successful. So those are two things that you combine. He's also probably going to be the most expensive portal quarterback out there. That doesn't mean that I don't see Indiana just going to get him just because of that. And they're not going to pay top dollar because they don't have to. Curt Cignetti knows what he's doing. They'll make that decision, but yeah, it also has to be something that fits both personality-wise, personnel-wise. There's a whole lot of fit that has to happen. How important is it to this person that they win? There's just a lot, but it'll be interesting. And the sheer fact that Sam Leavitt had listed Indiana, or I don't know if he did or On3 did, listed Indiana as one of the top 4 destinations for him. That tells me that, again, Indiana will be bringing in a quarterback. So let's take a break. We've got lots more coming up. Appreciate you being with us. We're back with plenty more after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with me. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all of his great content there. Mike, how are you, sir? How's it being back in the studio up north?
Yeah, it was great. Great to be with Jordan and Rick and Dave and to break down Moy. We had a bunch of games on the air and elsewhere in the league on Saturday. It was a full schedule. I think the total was 11 games. So we had lots to talk about. It was a pretty cool day of college basketball, and we're going to have another this Saturday up in the studio and in Chicago and all across the country, we can say now, in regards to the Big Ten.
True that. And without question, there is a lot going on, of course. I've been talking so much just for Indiana. Not week, but more like a 10-day period was crazy. You've got the Big Ten championship, Indiana and Louisville playing in basketball on one side, and then you get to the other end of the week, the next Saturday, and it's the Heisman and Indiana and Kentucky playing. Yes. What a book-ended week right there. That's a whole lot to pack in.
It was. And then you left. You did interrupt me, I will say that. Like, I was getting ready to compose my social media post ripping the Pulitzer Committee for not selecting me for their award, because apparently that's what you do these days. Isn't that right, Jim? You say terrible things about the Pulitzer Committee for not selecting me for one of their awards. And then, of course, also, I guess I've got to rip on, I don't know, the Washington Post or the New York Times, the people who did win those awards, because, I mean, you can't leave it at just ripping the committee that made the selection.
Yeah, in one way I feel bad for the dude, but on the other one, I'm like, man, how can you be that lost and that in the middle? I'm like, wow, you've got to have more sense than that, number one. And number two, where are your people? Where are your people, man? Yes. Because they let you down. Yes.
But I'm not blaming it on other people. You're right. They should have had somebody that was there to prevent those things from happening. But you're a 23-year-old young man, and you've been in sports your entire life. You don't get to be number 2 on that list without a long history in your sport. And your response, I mean, we're not talking about after the game kid not wanting to talk, or we're talking about something that was just an award. I mean, I know it's a big one, and I know that Fernando walked off with a piece of American sports history, and to get that for Pavia would have been amazing. I know, but you can't ever treat the people who made that selection and the person who won that award with disdain or contempt. And that just, I've never seen anything quite like that in sports. And I know social media provides you the opportunity to do that, but it's not like everybody else who's ever lost that award or did not win. I shouldn't say lost. No one else who's ever come close to winning that award without winning it didn't have a microphone or a notebook in front of them not long after. And no one that I can recall, I don't think it's happened, certainly not in my lifetime, that someone would say the things that he said. I was really disappointed in that episode. In my time, like as I have been a Heisman voter, probably not for a while, but probably a total of 15 times, somewhere in there, during my career. And I was telling colleagues, I didn't write anything about it, but I was telling colleagues that if I had a vote, I would not have voted for Pavia on the grounds that I don't think that he should have been playing college football this season. I didn't buy the whole junior college doesn't count concept. If the credits count, the football counts. If you throw away all your credits, then maybe we'll talk. But even then, I don't think that's how it can ever work. If the credits count, the football counts. And so I don't think he should have been there. So if I had a ballot, I probably wouldn't have had him on there, regardless of his performance, as a protest vote. But I didn't really get much traction with anybody with that. The people that I spoke to that were Heisman voters didn't look at it that way, and they still voted for him. They just didn't think he had the same year that Fernando had. And, one of the things that was interesting to me as I watched the Big Ten championship game is that, if you looked at Fernando through the course of the year, he had a phenomenal All-America type season. But there's such a search to make any big moment a Heisman moment. And the pass to Omar Cooper in the end zone against Penn State and the drive to win the game, a lot of people tried to proclaim that his Heisman moment, except he wasn't great on the drive. He missed some throws. A lot of them were great catches. Look, he threw that ball where only Omar could get it, and he threw it where only he could throw it based on the pressure that was to arrive. But the play was made by Omar. I mean, it was the best catch we've seen in college football in who knows how long. To be able to get up there with some pressure, physical pressure from the defender, to get that foot down and to keep the other foot, the opposite foot, from hitting the ground when it was the foot that was naturally going to land first, but he knew it would be hard to keep it in bounds. It was just a phenomenal play. So I didn't think that was a Heisman moment. And then he comes back in the Big Ten championship game against the defense that had been statistically the best in college football. And I'm telling you, watching that's what the NFL guys were looking for, what he did that night. And I heard a lot of people say that wasn't a great Heisman game. He wasn't. Are you kidding me? He was phenomenal in that game. Every throw was where it needed to be. I mean, not every completed throw was where it needed to be. And you're not going to complete every throw against a defense that good. But in the moments where he needed to be exceptional, he was subtly exceptional. Use your eyes, folks. You've seen enough football to know that what he did that night, what was a Heisman moment. It just didn't have the big punctuation like the touchdown against Penn State. But every single throw was exactly where it needed to be under that level of pressure in terms of the defensive pressure applied, as well as the game pressure of trying to do something that Indiana hadn't done since when? I know you know the answer to this. When's the last time they won the Big Ten? 63 or something like that? What's that? 52.
67.
67. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was sometime within my lifespan, but when I was very young.
Oh yeah, it was their last trip to the Rose Bowl that everyone talks about, which actually was, I think, the 68 Rose Bowl, but that's the last time that they went. And only once before that, back in 45, when they actually, I think, went undefeated and were Big Ten champs. But that's back, we're talking George Taliaferro days, when the people that they have statues of. And when you're referring to teams that they have statues of, that means it's a long damn time ago. But Indiana is, and before you joined us, Mike, I was watching last night. I think it was the American Football Coaches Association dinner conference. It may have been a year ago, or I don't think it was this season's, but it was Kurt Signetti. And so that's the longest I've heard him speak. I mean, it was 40 minutes long. So I'm listening to him for 40 minutes, and he's saying a lot of things that I've heard over and over. But then there's little bits in here and there. But A lot of people have compared him to Bob Knight, the coach Bob Knight, as far as, his tactician and how he goes about things in a, it's a positive comparison. But then last night, and this is not going to shock anybody, but as I'm listening to him talk, I'm like, he reminds me of freaking Nick Saban, which, I know he coached under Saban, but how he approaches everything, his process. I mean, there's so many things that we've heard Nick Saban talking, and I used to think that half of Nick Saban's success was about, buying players and this and that, but I've become very, very convinced that he's just a hell of not just a coach, he could run a company. These people could run companies. They are CEOs, Mike. They are running individual companies within their organization and making the whole thing run. And that's what makes these successful guys really successful. And I truly believe Curt Cignetti is one of those guys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Curt, when you think about it, he had the advantage of a life around great college football coaches, starting with his father, who did not have great success at the Division I level when he was at West Virginia. But when he went to Division II and coached at IUP, we call it here, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, he had tremendous success. Frank Sr. did. And so he was around that his whole life. And then he was around Don Nehlen for a little while after his father was dismissed at West Virginia, and Curt chose to stick around, which is really an interesting decision because he did not. It wasn't like he was a clear path starter. I'm not sure that Curt ever became a full-time starter, but instead of going somewhere else where that was available to him, or obviously available to him, or away from the place that had just removed his father as coach, he stuck around and was coached by Don Nehlen. And Don Nehlen was one of the greats as well. Tremendous coach. I believe he won over 200 games at West Virginia, was there for 25, 30 years, whatever the final was. And just a phenomenal coach. So Curt, I don't know. I talked to him a year ago when he was named Sporting News Coach of the Year, and I can't remember why he said he stuck around. I'd have to reread the story, but just that very act of doing that allowed him to be coached by someone who was special again. And then, of course, later goes to work for Nick. And so he's got a lot of great influences to draw from. And you're a product of what you learn, but you're mostly a product of how you process what you learn and how you apply it. And I don't necessarily see the comparisons to Coach Knight, other than they both wear the same, they both wore the same color of warm-up top. But I don't, and they're both great. They're not similar characters, but they're both great. There's a lot of ways you can win in sports, but there are certain fundamental elements that are common to every championship organization. And when people sometimes think culture is a cliche in sports, that it's just something that people say. It's not. It's everything. Because culture goes to how you work, what you emphasize, how you allow your players to comport themselves, and how they interact with one another, and what you'll tolerate within that framework. Do you want a George Pickens who is constantly demanding individual attention, or do you want someone who is willing to commit to the overall success of the team? Those are decisions you have to make. And sometimes you can try to anticipate them. I don't think this person will fit our culture. And sometimes you find out after the fact that you can't get that person to conform to your culture, and you'll feel a need sometimes to extricate a high-level performer as a result. Those are all decisions you have to make as the head coach of a college team. And it's more challenging for a football coach because there are so many more people that are involved that you have to manage. In basketball, it's more of a challenge because if you get one wrong, that can foul up the whole operation because that person's going to consume a significant amount of playing time, a significant amount of attention out of 10 players or so that might play. It's hard if you have a player that goes well outside the boundary of what you will tolerate, that can really disrupt. In football, you can maybe mitigate that a little bit more if it's one player, but you still have to make sure that one player who was it? Was it Sparky Anderson or someone like that who said your job as a manager is to keep the 5 players who hate you from convincing the 5 players who aren't sure that they should. Somebody like that. I can't remember if that's exactly right, but if it was Sparky or someone else, but that's the kind of thing you have to deal with in a football locker room, and Kurt's been a master.
Yeah, and in that speech that he was given, which not that I didn't know this, but it just again it rings it home. He was talking about Bryant Haynes, been with him now for a dozen years. Mike Shanahan, 11, almost a dozen years. That's unheard of. Show me a head coach in FBS right now in the power conferences that have their 2 coordinators that have been with them for both either that have been with them for a dozen years. That's going to be, there might be 1 or 2 on one side. There's no way that you can, that I can imagine finding both coordinators with a head coach for 10 or more years. It's just, it's crazy, but that is part of the uniqueness of what is going on here. And, the thought is, and the talk is, family and all this. And everybody's like, yeah, well, that goes on as long as the money, whatever. It's still going, man. It's still going. These guys, I start to wonder, not everybody has to be a head coach. And now, to be honest, both coordinators are making more money than what Tom Allen was paid when he first became the head coach at Indiana. Think about that, people. Both coordinators are making more money right now than what Tom Allen was signed as the head coach. So, and that was not that long ago. So that's how crazy that is. But it makes me wonder, you know what? I look at Brian Haynes, uber successful. The pressure of being a defensive coordinator on the top, one of the top teams, that's enough pressure. It is. He's making pretty damn good money for most of us. And I don't know that's, and one of these days, guess what? This position is going to open up. So if you've stayed that long, why not go the run and potentially look at becoming the head coach at Indiana?
I think it depends on what opportunities become available. And one of the reasons why you compensate those 2 coaches at the level you do is to make it so that they aren't leaving for money. Oh, I've got to take this chance to be a head coach because it's the only chance I'll ever have to make that level of money. And if I fail, I can always go back to being a coordinator and make quality money. But to make that kind of money, I've got to be a head coach. Well, that's not necessarily true now, as you mentioned. With those 2 coordinators, they can stay where they are until they are offered an opportunity that either is personally irresistible, maybe a hometown, something like that, or they can stay there until there's an opportunity that is just irresistible. They know they're going to win there or have a great chance to win there. They know that it will allow them the opportunity to ascend in the business, and they also, and one of the things that you realize in a position like that where you're being paid so well to be a high level, high major Big Ten SEC level coordinator is that when a job opens, like say using an example of James Madison. Then you have to think about, do I want to be a head coach so badly that I'm going to take a pay cut. And that's a hard thing to do. Do you really want to take that big a pay cut to do that? And that's where it really comes in. Nobody's going to turn down Michigan that doesn't already have, like, Kalen DeBoer's going to turn down Michigan or any hint of a Michigan. I don't know whether Michigan approached, but he's going to shut that down because he's at Alabama. But there are places like eventually Matt Campbell couldn't say no to Penn State when it got to him, because even though he was highly successful at Iowa State and apparently fairly happy, that's an unbelievable opportunity to be at the coach of a program like that. And when jobs like that open and they become interested in a high level coordinator, if they are, that's when you start to turn your head a little bit as a Brian Hartline or someone like that, or Mike Shanahan in this case. Then you start to turn your head a little bit if they happen to get on the horn to you.
Thank you, sir. I was on mute there. I have to go back and edit that one out for a minute. But what I was talking about was when you fire somebody, firing them is not an issue. Pat Kraft ended up so lucky because that's a situation where they fired him too soon, and it took me back to when IU fired Bob Knight. Firing him wasn't the problem, but when you're going to take down a king, you better have a plan, and neither one of these had plans. Now, Indiana did not end up well. Penn State probably ended up well with the hire that they got, which, boy, did they get lucky there. And they went full circle. I mean, they went from oops to hello, thank you very much. And this was such the opposite situation of Lane Kiffin that we saw play out. You know that this was just aggravating for Matt Campbell. He didn't want to leave Iowa State, but how do you not? I mean, at some point, how do you not?
Head coach at Iowa State for a while. I mean, Kirk Ferentz has been the head coach at Iowa forever and has been very happy there, and it's been extraordinarily successful. But there is a ceiling at Iowa football, at least one that hasn't ever been breached before. It wasn't breached under Hayden Fry, and it hasn't been breached under him. They have been always just right underneath that top level. Kurt Cignetti blew through any ceiling that Indiana has had or imagined it had. I mean, remember, we thought the ceiling was like, ooh, you get to be 6-5. That's not bad. If you can win 8 or 9, wow, you're really something. And he blew through that. But that was the choice that Campbell was basically making was, I can be here, I can be successful, I can be very happy. I'm sure he loved living in Ames and all that stuff. But I can also go there and I can win a championship. If I do it right, I can win it there. I can be involved in it and I can win it if I do it right. James Franklin wasn't that far from being in that company. So I think that the decision to fire Franklin was different than what happened with Bob Knight, because Bob's was behavior oriented and Franklin was simply wins and losses, and getting the correct wins and the incorrect losses. That was all about. So I think when Miles Brand made and the board made the decision on Bob, they felt that the situation was untenable. And now, whether you agree with that or not, I'm sure there are people listening who don't agree with that. I would be shocked if there were people who were listening who didn't see it from Bob's angle. But that was their position then. In the case of James Franklin, it was a wins and losses thing. And when you fire a coach that early, you're saying to your people, we know exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to make it happen. And they did not do that. But ultimately, they wound up in a very comfortable position. Matt's going to do a good job there. Whether he's able to do it at the Ohio State level, who knows? But I didn't think that Indiana was ever going to be able to do it that level, and look where we are.
Mike DeCourcy's with us from the Sporting News. We've got plenty more coming up. We got to take a quick break. More Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have Mike DeCourcy with us. And I know, Mike, you are working on something with the Don, as I like to call him, coming up. And I bring that up because make sure when you talk to him, you tell him, say, Don, I saw that 60 Minutes piece, and it would have been a lot better if they'd have used a lot more of you in it, because it just wasn't enough. And I say that because when he's on with me each Monday, and he was complaining that they sat down with him for 2 hours and all they used was like 20 seconds or something crap. No, it was more than that, but he was joking about it. But yeah, you know that's going to happen. They're going to use, you know how it is in TV. You get thousands more than you need, and it comes down to just nothing. But hey, he was on 60 Minutes, baby.
Hey, I told him, I said, I know the Sporting News isn't 60 Minutes, but I hope you have a couple of minutes for an old friend. And he graciously agreed. On the as opposed to 60 Minutes, I will talk to him for probably 10 minutes. And given what I know about Don, I'll probably use every single quote that he says, including hello, because nobody can say hello with quite the gravitas that Don Fisher can. As great. I was going to say as good, but that's understating it. As great a play-by-play voice as there has been in American sports. He is. Indiana has had some great coaches and great teams over the years, and is blessed to have had all that. But I hope and I trust that Indiana fans understand how blessed they are to have Don Fisher as their voice.
You know, I have an affinity for play-by-play voices, because I respect and appreciate them so much. And even when I was not in media, whatever, of course, who doesn't love listening to Don Fisher? And I always thought, well, I did go to IU, and, I grew up in Indiana, so maybe it's that bias. So I can't be unbiased I don't feel like I could be unbiased, but I'm like, damn, I've heard a lot of others. I've not heard anything that grabs you like his does, that has the uniqueness that his does. And like, he is so difficult to imitate. The only person I know of who does a really good Don Fisher, and that's usually Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts. He is tremendous at it. But like Bob Knight, they both had these unique Midwestern. Don's Illinois, Knight was Ohio, but these unique Midwest inflections in how they said certain words. And but Don is just, he has the voice and has just developed, and he's developed it on his own. It's not like he went to some school and it was taught, here's how you do it. He learned how to do it, man. And it has been one hell of a ride. He started off basically by going with an undefeated basketball team, and now he's going to kind of end it with an undefeated football team. How crazy is that over the course of 50 plus years?
Phenomenal. He is great. When I moved down to Memphis after, and we had great play-by-play people up there as well. Jack Fleming, Bill Hillgrove, who was the voice of the Steelers for years and years. But when I went down to the South, I heard so many great play-by-play voices for the individual colleges there. John Ward for Tennessee, Jack Crystal for Mississippi State, and getting to hear them on a regular basis was really cool. I would be driving around at night. This is back in the AM radio days, and you'd hear a Mississippi State game or a Tennessee game, and they were extraordinary. And but Don is in that pantheon, man. He is tremendous, and he's going to say, "Why were you spending 10 minutes buttering me up on the air when I already agreed to talk to you today?"
What was that one again? I missed it.
I said he's going to end up when I finally get on the phone with him this morning. He's going to say, "Why did you spend 10 minutes on the air buttering me up? I already agreed to talk to you."
You know what? That is exactly something that he would say. But he's certainly a treasure. And the funny thing is, like I said, of all the things, and as long as he's been doing this, it's Indiana with football being so much bigger now than even in a basketball state. Man, football in and of itself is just so much bigger as a sport and he is right there in the middle of it. He, like I said, he's on 60 Minutes. He's getting to call the Big Ten championship. He's going to the Rose Bowl. All of this stuff within a matter of weeks, not years. Most people wait years, and he's been doing it for years, but most people wait for years and years to combine all of those. Hell, he's going to do them within the combine of a couple of months.
It's incredible. It really is. And it all goes back to what Kurt and his guys. We give a lot of credit to Kurt, and he's earned it all. And then, of course, Fernando with the Heisman moment on Saturday night, being able to carry that trophy off the stage, etc. But there are a lot of really good football players wearing Indiana colors, and they are doing a phenomenal job. And we should not ignore that this is not just the product of one or two people. That Indiana's football team, those guys are playing at an extraordinary level. They looked at that Ohio State roster with all the obvious draft picks that they have. Jeremiah Smith is going to be one of the first 5 players taken in I guess presumably in next year's draft. Maybe if he decides to stick around the year after that, but presumably it'll be the 2027 draft. Will be one of the first 5 players taken, just depending on positional needs. But they're guys like Caleb Downs and so many other terrific players, and they looked at those guys and they went right at them and were right there on the same plane for about 55 minutes, and then on the plane above them for the final 5, and as the buzzer sounded. It was a phenomenal performance, and all the Hoosiers deserve credit for that. And I know from having spoken to one earlier in the week that there's no satisfaction there. There's delight in being able to call themselves Big Ten champions, but there's still more out there, and they know there's more out there. They know that if they could defeat Ohio State on that field with that at stake, a I'd say, without having been in the building, a pretty much neutral field. There were a lot of Indiana fans. There were a lot of Ohio State fans, and they were able to go into that circumstance and win the game. And so there's nothing now that they know there's nothing they can't accomplish. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that's why they're still hard at work and will be for the next perhaps month. That's the goal, to still be hard at work in a month.
Boy, I'm having a different setup today, so I'm muting myself in and out and forgetting to unmute myself. But what's up next for you, brother? I know this is one of those times of year, basketball really getting hot and heavy. We're starting to see who is and who is not.
Yeah, I'll be a part of the pregame show on FS1 on Wednesday night. Heading into our college basketball coverage, talking about bracket items and where things are shaping up, as well as this Saturday, I will be in studio at BTN, and I will have a major project coming up Thursday on sportingnews.com involving Indiana football. So Hoosier fans will definitely want to look out for that. And those who watched the WNBA semifinals last season will be interested to know that the Sporting News named Asia Wilson our female athlete of the year. And those who watched the NBA finals, I didn't do this article. This was done by our terrific NBA writer, Steph No, will be interested to know that the male athlete of the year is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who took down the Pacers in the NBA finals. So right now, it's quite clear that the path to excellence goes through Indiana. But I think if you're a Hoosier fan, you want it to be Indiana going on that path in the next month for the college football playoff.
Without question. Mike DeCourcy, make sure you're giving him a follow, keeping up with all his great content at the Sporting News. Appreciate you, my friend. We'll see you next week. And catch him at the Big Ten in the studio as well. We're back with more. JD Campbell joins us after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Glad to be with you. It's chilly out there. Speaking of chilly, I already ate all of mine. I've got to get in and make a new batch. JD Campbell joining us now. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great, my friend. Had a very enjoyable week. I know I saw you Tuesday
going back to Assembly Hall for the first time for me since I left. It was very, really good to not being in Assembly Hall, but going to a game. I've kind of boycotted most games. I'd rather watch it on my TV. And like right now, I'm in my Deron Davis Armed Forces Classic jersey when we beat Kansas in Hawaii the day Donald Trump was elected, for those who care or don't care. Is
that the actual game jersey?
It can't be, because it fits me perfectly. And, you know, D-Row was a big guy. He was Barkley-esque. But he was a good kid, ran into some bad injury problems. I know him one time, I think he hurt his ankle because, you know, and that's one thing you notice about Assembly Hall is how close everybody is to each other, you know, from the sidelines, the photographers, all those things. One time, I think he went to chase a ball, and he stepped on a camera cable. And needless to say, one person got chewed out about it, and you might know who that person might be, because the coaches weren't happy. And so, but no, man, great week, getting an opportunity with the cold to stay in. I didn't get out of the house for 3 days, and you know, I finally got stir crazy yesterday and went out. But no, it was a good weekend. You know, in terms of all the different things, it was really a great college basketball weekend. And then you had the anticipation of the Heisman Trophy, and the right person won. You know, it's unbelievable to think, as I'm sure you've said many, many times, to sit there and see where the program has gone. And seeing John Wertheim from who did an article on IU for Sports Illustrated when Tom Crean was first hired, and we've been in contact for years. He's a Bloomington North grad.
North. I thought it was South, but
oh boy, you're going to get.
He wrote for who?
Sports Illustrated.
I did not know that.
Well, there you go. See, that's why you need me on.
Well, there's many reasons, but if I had heard that, I had forgotten that. That his background was in sports, but ironically, he left Bloomington immediately to go to college because he was pretty damn smart. Where'd he go? Yale?
Very smart. I don't know where he went, but I know he's one of the most talented people among the many talented people that are in the media. And he was always impressive. And, you know, he came out and did the article, and there was a big picture in SI of, like, guys, you know, Tabor, Finkelmeyer, and in fact, it's in my garage somewhere because I got that picture and blew it up, and still part of my memorabilia. So a lot of good stuff in the past.
Well, and John Wertheim is someone I would love to have on. He is just so interesting because of all his different experiences. But I watch 60 Minutes every week. You know, I record it. And I watch it. So I would.
They still have the stopwatch.
Oh yeah.
I see. I don't see a lot of network because, you know, that's usually a time where you're getting into the Sunday night football game on NBC.
Well, yeah, and it's always late because they always have a football game prior to it.
Yeah. No, it's. You know, not as bad as what we saw, I think, I'm not going to say the network, on Saturday with college basketball, where they were games were running over, tripping on each other. And some games you didn't even get to till, you know, late in the first half. So that's always been a pet peeve of mine, but I don't have to worry about it now. So that's always good.
You know, one of your jobs when you were SID is, you know, dealing with what goes out, how it goes out from players, from coaches, whatnot. How would you have handled the Diego Pavia situation, his post Heisman comments of not winning the award, in actuality, not being close to winning the award, but his reaction was just so juvenile?
Wouldn't have happened at Indiana. Wouldn't have happened. because again, now I've been out of it 3 years. This will be year 3. But you train your guys and you explain to them, look, you do not want anything bulletin board material. You're building this is your image now. And now it's even more paramount because you have the ability to make money off your image. And he did it on a national stage. I feel bad for him because I know the guy that really mentored him, Jerry Kill, was a coach of mine at Emporia State. Jerry was New Mexico State's head coach. Then he went to Vandy, brought Diego with him. But you got to be smart, and that's the whole thing where I tell guys, social media is the devil. You know, camera's always on you, and you beat it to death with your athletes. And Indiana's very fortunate to have such a wonderful, wonderful, not only group of SIDs with Jeff and Greg and Charlie and Megan and Jackson, Austin, Jared Rigdon, just phenomenal. But I do know that I think that colleges and administrators have lost a little bit of control with the NIL because you cannot stand in the way of those guys making a living. And first off, I would say, look, don't ever be pictured at a party. You know, don't ever be, and that to me is a rule that, you know, we saw pictures of guys at parties that got leaked or put out, and we were able to, you have the relationships with certain people and you say, hey man, we can't have that. But then the kid, you know, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And the discipline at Indiana was always pretty harsh for something like that. But it happens everywhere.
And a good, the schools without question have the power right now. They, as a matter of fact, you know,
schools
people
have
are
no
always
power.
saying, hey, get so-and-so, hey, get so-and-so on, get so-and-so. There's a lot of people I'd love to get on, but I can't. I cannot just ask players or coaches to come on. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to be able to get them to come on because they're not going to be allowed to come on by their individual sport. But I wonder how long is that going to last when a guy, he's 21 years old or whatever, saying, you know, I think I should be able to talk to whomever I want to be able to talk to. And why am I being told not to?
Well, here's the reason why. Again, this was all part of the control aspect that coaches and departments really wanted to exert. You saw it especially in college football, you know, with the injury reports and all those different things. Guy, you know, a joke with Garl, guy blows an ACL. What is it? Mid leg. You know, Garl would always say, you know, upper hand, you know, just things like that. But that's what we had to do. And which I always thought it was a gambling aspect. And I get it, you know, as much as anybody. But if you look at the NBA and NFL and MLB, the teams do not coordinate appearances for the most part by the players. Those are handled by outside representatives, agents, or companies that they use that athlete for sponsorships. And those are all the PR guy of the Colts isn't going to be able to, you know, he may put something out there that said, hey, somebody wants to do this, but a lot of that goes through the agents. And I don't know how public it is because I don't care anymore. I don't know how public the agents are to these athletes, but there's a lot of stuff that those athletes now have to do that they didn't have to do, but they're also getting some money in that bank account. And so that's why it's changed. And the other thing I'll tell you this, Jim, part of my philosophy was if, and again, this is not directed to you or anybody else, who they go on with, it can open up a Pandora's box, because I can't tell you how many times I got emails. Hey, I'm an Indiana grad. I love the Hoosiers. I want to do this. But you can't have guys. Media could take up their time for hours on end. And so that's only why. That's why I was very loyal to our beat writers, people who traveled. I tried to do my best. We did, again, as everything evolved, whether it's podcast, we just kind of stayed away from podcasts because there were so many and everybody wanted them on. And, I'll give an example, like with Woody. Woody didn't like his assistant coaches doing media. In fact, that was one of the first things he told me. And if they did media, they'd have to tell me, and I would go to Woody and say, hey, they want to do this. And he could say yes or no. But sometimes they did it anyway because they didn't feel like anybody was going to find out. But we always did.
What's the big deal with guys that are assistant coaches that surely you trust and that have been around for a long time? I'm just curious as to why that may be, what reasoning there might be for them to not be able to do that.
I think it's a professional sports thing, especially the NBA. You don't see a lot of assistants out there doing weekly shows. In the NFL, you don't see the coordinators doing shows. I always liked our assistants to do media because I thought that this helps prepare them for when they move on. And that's why the usual boilerplate of what we did when a new staff was hired was try to make that assistant available for an interview. And I had one assistant that will remain nameless on the various staffs, the four head coaches that were with me. And I said, hey, we're doing assistant coach media today. And he looked at me, he goes, why? And he had worked at a couple big time Division I programs. He goes, we never did this. And I said, look, you're at Indiana now. Everybody wants to know about you. And the best thing you can do is give off that impression for yourself. That's why I always liked assistant. I always liked assistant coaches doing pre or post game, or not necessarily post game, but Indiana's one of the few programs in the country, because it's getting less and less, that has their head coach do the post game radio. A lot of them are just it's all calculated. Hey, we're going to get out of here. Coach is going to go do his media. The assistant that had the scout, you go do post game. And that's what happened. I know Dockich told me that a lot of times the assistants would have to go do the post game. And then after a while, I don't know if he appeared or not, but that's why. I mean, it's just, and again, dealing with the media is a tremendous mental strain for some of these people. And that's why the rule was, if we got blasted or we had a bad loss, the guys that are going to speak are the captains. And they knew that. And like I said, I know I didn't make everybody happy. You can't. But that was the job that I had, protect the reputation. And I couldn't have a kid go out there. Trace actually got mad at me. The game that we lost at Wisconsin, where we had a 20-point lead, 17 or 18 at halftime. He come out and he looked at me, he goes, hey, JD, I'm the one that needs to do media, not X. And so that's, and that's what you want in a leader. Jordan Hulls was always fantastic. Fantastic. Russ, I saw your note. Jordan Hulls is hosting a camp soon for the JH1 clinic. And Calvert, you can see at halftime doing studio analysis for the Peacock Network. And I believe the last time I talked to him, he may be doing a few games in January for Fox, whether it be FS1 or the Fox networks, because they have a lot of inventory. And I told him, I thought he reminds me a lot of Clark Kellogg on the air. And I really have a lot of respect for Clark Kellogg. And so Calvert's doing great. I think he's going to, if he continues to just stay in broadcasting, I think he's got a great chance to work not only college, but NBA, because there still seems to be a little shortage of Indiana people involved with, some of the other entities that televise. And I'm not saying everybody has to have Indiana guys, but Calvert to me is that diamond in the rough that will do a fantastic job.
Yeah, I agree. Indiana has so many people involved in national media. I'm talking, Joe Buck went to IU, hosts Monday Night Football. The executive producer of Monday Night Football is an IU guy. You Sage Steele and Courtney Cronin, and there's so many. But as far as analyst positions, you're right. And I've always wondered why there weren't more. And I saw Calvert on Peacock last week doing some games, and he is just very natural. He's just, I'm surprised that he wasn't doing this sooner, although we know that he's been in and out of coaching, but very, very relaxed doing it. And yeah, this is something he's going to do with great aplomb moving forward. And he's just going to get better and better at it. And is just kind of a natural at it.
He really is. And I'm excited because I am going to get to work games for the first time this year. You usually do about 30, and I'll be down in Indianapolis or up in Indianapolis for that Indy Classic where Butler is going to play Northwestern and Purdue will host. I call it host. Purdue will play Auburn, and so I know the games are on Peacock. I'm expecting Robbie Hummel will be an analyst. I don't know yet. But that could be something, and I'll text Calvert later on to find out if he's going to be on those games at halftime. But no, some guys are just natural at it. Joey Brunk did games for ESPN Plus early on for Butler, and he's really good for a rookie, and that's what you want. I mean, because he's got a unbelievable personality, experience that, how many guys played for 3 teams like Butler, Indiana, and Ohio State. And, he's just a joy. I'm really happy for him, really happy for those guys that are doing. I think Victor, in the middle of him being hurt, tried to do some stuff with ESPN, but I think I know Victor's still trying to get back. He was in the G League with Wisconsin. So a lot of these guys are really naturals. I could give you a list of about 15 guys that were at Indiana during my 16 years that, if they pursued it, would be really good.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to seeing those guys. That's as a matter of fact, it would be great. Jordan's been on with us before. Nick Zeisoff has been on with us before. Robbie Hummel's been on with us before. Last year, as a matter of fact, and prior to that. But those are all great guys. Calvert has not been on with us before, though. Got to get it. Be fun to have these guys on with you and guys talking, and because your stories would be so much better than with me talking. I'll just sit here and stay out of the way, man.
Some of them would be X-rated at times. What we remember. A few locker room situations where, the paint peeled, and that's fun. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, Jim. And with this being the 10-year anniversary of the 2016 Big Ten Championship, maybe I can see if we can get some of those guys on that. I don't know. Have you had Max Bielfeldt on?
Yeah,
Any
I can't go
guys
back and
like
look. There's so many that I cannot remember.
Colin Hartman, Robert
Oh
Johnson?
yeah, Colin's been on numerous times.
Yeah, Robert Johnson. I don't know. But the problem right now is I don't know how many of those guys are playing overseas. And I know
that's all right. The ones that are great, the ones that aren't, hey.
Yeah.
You got to make hay, baby. You got to make hay when the sun shines.
Hey, Harrison Niego, the walk-on, hit the three that gave IU a Big Ten record, I think 19 threes. So there's a lot of guys. And you and I will talk offline at some point. And, I might even send a text to John Wertheim. And, maybe he'll come on because he's a great, great guy. And, he's elite in the business. Some play-by-play guys. I know, I've been in contact with Dave O'Brien, who did the Kentucky game, and he did the Marquette game. And he's also the play-by-play announcer for the Red Sox. Brandon Godden, Indiana guy, Evansville. So there's a lot of people. We just got to get through the holidays, I think, and get through this CFP. And when you go to Pasadena, I do have food recommendations there too. I have them everywhere, and that's going to be a thrill for everybody to be there New Year's Day in Pasadena. But Friday night, man, what do you think? Oklahoma, Alabama, because it's going to be nippy. It's going to be nippy if it's at night, kind of like last year's Notre Dame game.
The game is in Oklahoma?
Yes.
Man, I've heard Ty Simpson is not 100% or could be bad. So it sounds like it's favoring Oklahoma. Unfortunately, I hope it's Alabama. I'm being selfish because obviously I want it to be Kalen DeBoer and to see that game. Plus, Kalen will come on with us. I've already talked to him about it, but so I'm hoping for that.
Sure. I mean, and again, remember last year the four teams with byes went 0-4. So you don't know. So you always say, baseball was a great example. Teams were starting to get mad. Oh, we had the bye. We were the 1 or 2 seed, and the teams that played in the wild card round were, few of them won World Series, I think.
Yeah, the one thing that on the buys, the big difference is last year it was they weren't rated as they are, where this year the buys were rankings only, not BS conference champs that didn't belong in there. So that's part of it. And there were a couple of upsets. You had Oregon playing against someone, but
Oregon got drilled.
They got upset, I guess. They lost to Ohio State, but it's kind of set up a little different this year. I don't think that you're definitely going to see bye teams go 0-4. I think that hopefully that Indiana wins. I think Georgia will win, and I think Ohio State wins. I think that they go 3-4, if not 4-4.
What about Texas Tech?
I think that it's going to be a little different this season.
Well, again, anytime you get at the end of the semester and in the holidays, you have to be, if you're a coach, worried about the distractions that are taking place. Kids likely won't get to go home. And then you have a situation of somebody in their ear saying, look, okay, you're making $350,000 now. I got a school in this conference that'll give you 500. And because you only have 4 years to make money, and most of them will not play in the NFL, what do you take? Do you take the money or happy? It's the same thing with the coaching things you guys were talking about. It's tough. Penn State did hit a home run. with Mac. I told you Matt was a GA in a boiler room at Bowling Green.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was a GA when JD was the SID at Bowling Green way back in the day when Urban Meyer was the head coach.
Well, Greg Brandon was, Urban had left. Matt had come to us from, he was a player at that great Mount Union program in Division III that won a ton. It seemed like it was Mount Union and Wisconsin Whitewater every year playing for the Division III championship. And he was part of that lineage. But we had, I don't want to waste everybody's time telling you, we had two former assistants that were interim coaches in Billy Gonzalez in Florida. We had DJ Durkin at Auburn, Dan Mullen at UNLV. And then we had a number of guys that have gone, two that went on to be head coaches in the NFL, Stephen Wilkes and Vance Joseph. And I think both Joseph and Wilkes are still defensive coordinators in the NFL. So it was just it was an interesting time to be there because you had so many guys that really put in a lot of time. And I thought, to look at that, list of people, there was a lot of great minds there. And I'm excited that a lot of them are doing really, really well.
Sports has changed so much. Right now, JD, teams are planning on who we're going to bring in next year. And they're not talking about recruits, transfer portal. Who are they going to lose? Nebraska, who has had Dylan Raiola at quarterback since he was a freshman. He's going to be in the portal, but we knew something was going on there. His brother decommitted from Nebraska earlier this season, and now their 2-year guy is in the portal. So it'd be interesting to see where he's going to go. And I talked earlier, I think for Indiana, and I know everybody is all about wanting Alberto Mendoza to be the heir apparent to Fernando, which he was in high school. And I think that he is going to be, but I don't think it's going to be next season. He has 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. And with that and knowing that, I think that because of the current situation, Kurt Cignetti will bring in a 5th-year guy, nothing lower than that, no one that has more years than one. But like we have seen with Curtis Rourke and Fernando Mendoza, someone a la Sam Levitt that can, again, just hit the ground running. And then I expect Alberto to be the guy for the other 2, maybe one, unless he has a Fernando season, one, but the other 2 seasons after that. But that's my guesstimation, not what I will guarantee, not what I'm saying is going to happen. It's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I think in college football and college basketball and generally all sports, I've seen some high-profile volleyball players transfer out. You can only worry about this week. I said there are no longer programs, they're teams. And you don't know. None of us know. It's just the system right now. And you cannot fault anyone for trying to better themselves financially. And, you get pulled, emotionally. You love being at a place. But if you can make more money and do it as many times as you can, how can you fault people? Frustrating. Again, the fans are always the losers in all this. Because the coaches can do what they do, the players can do what they do, but the fans are the ones that have to come to the realization that this is a different and new era with free agency every year. And I don't know, because I don't talk to anybody, I don't know how people are feeling in the college game about the whole thing about making them employees with contracts and buyout clauses and all these different things. So we just got to sit back, not think about it, and enjoy the competition. And if your team's in that, good for you. And if your team's not, you're going to be miserable. The misery index, wasn't that? I think the misery index was the thing that either Bush or Reagan talked about. Sorry, folks, about dating myself there, but yeah, fans have a misery index. And, after I always thought in Indiana, every win, you're going to win a national championship unless you don't beat a team by a certain stature. And when you lose, the sky is falling. And every team right now has a pretty decent record in the Big Ten teams. But that gauntlet's coming up. That gauntlet's coming up, buddy. And the travel is exceptionally more brutal now with trips to the East Coast and the West Coast. Because with the Big Ten, generally, I don't think we had a flight longer than maybe 2 hours, and that may have been Minnesota when I first came in. Minnesota was like the longest trip. Penn State was the longest trip. Everything else was boop, boop, up and down. Michigan, flying to Michigan's great. Your food doesn't even have a chance to get cold. You may be freezing, but the food, hey, you can't even eat your food on the plane because it's so quick.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about that because that's going to play into the postseason with football, because it has been a different situation as far as normally everything stays on course and they can kind of control things. Well, it's been crazy as hell with all the awards going every which way, the amount of time in between games that's going to happen. There are good parts of that. You can heal up at a lot of other things. That and the fact that after the 2024 season, Indiana decided that they needed to spend money on football finally, and $60 million. And now I think people probably heard that on 60 Minutes and thought that was like money to players and whatnot. Not the case. This is all told, man. This is facilities. This is probably marketing. This is just a ton of different things, but we'll talk about all that and more. JD Campbell with us when we return to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along. JD Campbell with us as well. And if you watch the 60 Minutes piece, you saw that after the 2024 season, Tom Allen was let go after Indiana went 3-9. And according to 60 Minutes, $60 million was spent on Indiana football, but this was not towards like player salaries or just coaches' salaries and things like that. But it was kind of catching up. Facilities were still behind. Coaches' salaries were way behind. I'm sure part of this did go to NIL and whatnot, but they're so far behind that they're still not where they should be. Northwestern right now in the final stages of completing a $850 million stadium rebuild, and which I'm not suggesting that Indiana needs that. They do need some stadium improvements, but I don't know what Northwestern. They're not going to recoup that money. But Indiana was so far behind on that they finally got it going. And the one thing I will say with Don on 60 Minutes, when he was asked why Indiana had never been successful, and he said that they just couldn't recruit the big guys, the linemen, offensive, defensive linemen. When the truth be told, to me, it's because Indiana didn't do what they did after the 2024 season and put money behind football, supporting it just as like they did basketball. But they didn't realize that this is where it was going to go, and it took a minute to catch up. But you've got to give Scott Dolson and Pam Whitten credit for doing what they needed to do when they did, and they are reaping the benefits, JD.
Yeah, the thing that we always talked about was you cannot, if you had to spend the money that you're getting in exposure and publicity, the investment, you would understand why you have to spend money. And because you can be a mid-level type team and people don't know. People don't know because the average fan just focuses on very few teams. They get real excited during postseason or championships or bowl week or whatever you want to talk about. And that's why the money you spend is really a great investment, because I'll tell you, I don't know if Indiana University has ever been as visible, because now you're into the college football world in addition. And, not many schools, Ohio State's done a good job of putting money into their other programs. Michigan comes to mind of having, you look at the number of teams that have won football and basketball national championships. It's very few and far between. So I think that Scott and Dr. Whitten deserve a lot of credit for seeing. And I think everyone knew that was a possibility that I worked with, and they wanted it to go. But it was like, what happens first? What forces people to win and become fans, or what engages people to become fans? And bottom line, win. You can market everything. You can do everything. You can have people jump out of airplanes. You can have post-game concerts or pre-game concerts. But the best way to make money, and that includes the players now too, just win. Don't worry about your stats. Victor Oladipo was National Player of the Year, and he averaged 13 points a game. Why? Because Indiana was one or two or three of the most high-profile teams. And our guy DeCourcy took care of him, made him National Player of the Year. One of three. Kent Benson, Scott May, and Victor. Only three.
He also, very much like Fernando Mendoza, came to Indiana as a 3-star basketball player. He didn't come in as a 5-star. He didn't come in as this guy. He came in as somebody, and then he worked his ass off and became what he became.
Yeah, and but you know what? I know that, you know, they had a watch party at St. Paul's Church for him. He's such a big part of that parish that I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, you see those YouTube clips of back in my, you know, when we beat Kentucky or we beat, you know, VCU to go to the Sweet 16 for that first time. This is a level that nobody's ever seen here. And I couldn't be happier for everybody that has supported Indiana football for the last 40, 50, 20 years. Even I'm happy for you guys because you get to go. You get to go to those experiences. You get to go to a Rose Bowl. I'm sure there were media. I know there were media that went to New York, which is the best time of year to go to New York. So I'm just glad that I can sit there in my pajamas and turn the TV off as soon as the game's over. I didn't get a phone call from anybody for all weekend. I don't know if that's ever happened. That I went a whole weekend without a phone call from anybody, but I did. So what? You know, hey, I can wear jerseys. I can go eat lunch here in about 30 minutes. And
that's how it goes. But the Rose Bowl is next, man. We've got to take another break, JD. But when we come back, how much in marketing, what this football team has done for the school itself and how much it matters. I mean, the 60 Minutes piece, that's a freaking commercial for IU. All
of the media available, you know, nationally televised games for both programs. And Indiana, at least in basketball, was always on the highest tier in the Big Ten. And now in football, they're also on the highest tier. So they're you know, when you start getting now the volleyball Final Four, those schools benefit from the investment that those universities have put into their volleyball program, softball program, baseball, College World Series. We could go on and on about those opportunities. And that's what they are.
And great ones they are as well. Indiana is just one of those schools. They're kind of a mid-sized school as far as the Big Ten goes. Who are the smaller? Obviously Northwestern, but Rutgers. How big is Rutgers?
Rutgers is big.
Really?
Rutgers is huge. Yeah, it's the State College of New Jersey.
Who's the smallest school besides Northwestern? Who smaller schools in the Big Ten?
Well, what's our enrollment compared to Purdue?
They're kind of close, I think. 40.
I mean, everybody's very similar in the Big Ten. It's just a matter if you can fill 40 to 50,000 people in your stadium, and you can get away charging what they charge at Ohio State and Michigan, Penn State. But that'll be an adjustment for folks if you know, for
winning ain't easy and it ain't cheap.
No.
We've got more coming up. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. JD Campbell's with us, back with more right after this.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday. Appreciate you being with us. JD Campbell along as well. And Indiana is spending money on football after the 2024 season, if you were watching 60 Minutes, and it has paid off. But more importantly, better decisions have been made. Coaches have been hired and retained. The right coaches were fortunately brought in for Indiana, one that wanted to stay at IU and has made that decision. So they are, not only do they have an unbelievable, crazy situation as a coach as far as having the right guy, it's a guy that not only wants to stay here, will be here most likely for the duration of his contract, which that is not something you could usually count on or expect. But I actually do expect that. I always have with him. He's always seemed like a guy that enjoyed doing it where he was told that it can't be done. And he has. He did it right off the bat, which is mind-boggling. It reminds me of IU basketball back in the 70s when Bob Knight arrived, JD. They had success. They had success prior, like Indiana in the past, but they had won a couple of national titles, but they had falling on, it wasn't going great. Obviously, they hired a new basketball coach, and man, it did not take long before Bob Knight had Indiana rolling on that side. And it's a very similar situation with Kurt Signetti, but we just never dreamed or expected to see this. Neither did the rest of the world. And while Indiana fans are still, their heads are spinning to catch up, what do you think the rest of the freaking world is like?
Well, you want to go back to Indiana basketball. They also had the advantage of a brand new facility that coincided with that coaching change. And they had some talent too that, Coach Knight was able to bring in a lot of foundational, unbelievable players. And there were a few leftovers. There were some leftovers, but we wouldn't call them leftovers because they were in the Final Four. The second year, 73? They went to the Final Four. And back then, freshmen couldn't play. You didn't have freshman eligibility. So, yeah, for that time frame, that's exactly what, was great. And people caught the fever again because they liked a coach that was no nonsense, that preached discipline, preached academics, and all those things. So, yeah, and right now, Indiana's playing a little catch up on certain things, but in the important things, they work the system as well as anybody ever. With the transfer portal, having some players that were in your program that can help kind of explain the culture to players, those are, those are priceless. And I think that what you're seeing right now is a renaissance. And you've never seen this. You've never seen this before. And I just think that they're doing everything the right way. This Rose Bowl is going to be a business trip. The Rose Bowl comes with a lot of, hey, we want you to do this. We want you to. The Rose Bowl is as traditional as anything. They won't move off the January 1 date. Okay? You've got the parade. I know there were things that the players would have had to do. My favorite's always the Beef Bowl, where they go to Lowry's and go up against each other to see who can eat the most prime rib, which team. And Disneyland's usually a part of it, but I don't think that's happening this year. This is all business. And Kurt Cignetti is a guy that manages that as well as anybody. Because, you have different kinds of coaches. Some coaches let their players have time to be away from them. Other coaches don't let you out of your hotel. And if you need pizza, you're hungry because you're sick of the meals that you get in pregame, postgame, night before, or whatever. Look, my job at Bowling Green was to get the pizzas for guys. People were knocking on my door a lot. And so finally we had to come up with a system. Because, when Dan got there, he brought in the whole Bob Knight pregame meal and meals the day before, hamburger patties, pasta or whatever, vegetables, ice cream carts. I mean, it was wild. And finally the guy's like, look, we're not eating. There isn't anybody right now in college athletics, at least I think, in football or basketball, that worry about eating. We used to get a post-game meal on the bus, drive to the airport, and there's another meal waiting for you. So those are all things part of this game right now. And look, this is a time for celebration. And Indiana fans especially. And, when I went back last week, the people I was most happy to see were like the ushers and people that helped me all the years that I haven't seen in 3 years. And I'm happy I know a lot of season ticket holders that were very, very loyal through thick and thin over my 18-year association with IU. And I say good for them. That's who I'm happiest for. They can go buy they should buy every t-shirt, skull cap, anything. You may not need a jacket in Pasadena at the time, but I'm glad they're going to get the opportunity. And I've heard of so many people who've got tickets already.
Absolutely. It'll be a fun one. JD, cannot thank you enough. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy as well. Most importantly, each and every one of you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. JD will be back next week. Enjoy it, buddy. Appreciate you.
We'll see you, bud. Thanks.
Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.